Renn, thank you for joining us today on the Sales Confidence Podcast.
Thanks.
Really excited about this interview.
You may not say that at the end, but...
That may be true, but we can always cut out the bits I don't enjoy.
I love that. I love editing. It's brilliant. Yeah.
So thanks very much for being with us today in London.
Yeah.
I know you've been up to a lot, and hopefully we're going to learn more about that as the interview goes. So just as an introduction, for those that may not know you, Renn Vara is a founder, coach, advisor, facilitator and writer, splitting time between San Francisco, New York and London, and possibly the world, because I know you're extremely well traveled. Mm-hmm. As the co-founder of SNP Communications, you've got over 25 years experience working with Silicon Valley tech companies, startup founders and senior leadership teams. Since 1992, SNP Communications have provided leadership communication services from offices in San Francisco, New York City, Dublin, and London. SNP have helped customers, including the likes of Oracle, Salesforce, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, and Facebook, helping them develop their messaging, develop their leadership, and improve their communication skills in those businesses. Over the last 27 years, SNP have helped the world's most interesting companies make their content clear and memorable. And you've been able to consistently support some of the world's best founders. So I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today.
And all I can say to all of that is, wow.
You've been very busy.
Yeah, oh my God, man. I think I'm in a deposition now. Like you're going to ask me some really tough questions in a legal case or something.
Well, I'm going to try and make it quite light and enjoyable.
Good. All
right?
Good.
So this is the first question, just to break the ice.
All right, yeah.
What have you been most excited about today? What's got you excited today?
Well, it's really funny. Actually, just now,
yeah.
I left spending 2 or 3 hours with the sales leadership of a multinational tech company.
Okay.
And we talked about how we can leverage the mindset of a founder to make the sales leaders more effective in doing what they're doing.
Amazing.
And this is a multi-billion-dollar business, and they want to really tap into the brains of likes of you, founders, to figure out what is it we can leverage to actually do our job better.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to talking more about that. Just taking it back for a moment and like how you approach life, what's typically the first thing you think about when you wake up?
Well, I do. Actually, I have a process.
Okay.
I do.
Share.
So the first thing I do when I get up is I generally have a book that I'm deeply in, right?
Yep.
So I commit myself to a book.
Okay.
I have my notebook next to it, and I purposely do not look at my phone. I do not look at my computer. I don't do any of that. I go and just, with my book and my notebook, for the first 30 minutes in the morning, I read and then reflect on what I'm reading while I'm making my morning tea or coffee, that kind of thing. But that's all I do so that it cleans my brain out. I do that every morning. I purposely fight the urge of picking up the phone. I don't let that happen.
Okay, so you create the time and space to think.
Yeah.
And that helps you prepare for the day ahead.
That's right.
Okay, excellent.
That look on your face.
Well, no, I was just
like,
what is great?
Is that even possible?
Well, no, because some people can't. The first thing I do often think about after I thought about going to the toilet is,
by the way, that's a good move. Yeah.
It is what I want to do next, but it's in that moment, it's very easy to turn to your phone.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's important to separate yourself from those devices.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an idea.
Help me.
Okay. So I want you to adopt this simple idea.
Okay.
And this may sound odd. Okay. So I don't mean to make it sound odd, but if you simply think of this idea, sound as hello. Now hear what I just said. Sound as hello. Mm-hmm. So like, hello. All right. So when you get up in the morning, all you're going to do is listen for sounds that say hello. Your feet hit the ground. Hello. You touch a cup, you touch a spoon. Hello. Just simply do that. Why is that? What does that do for you if you did that in the morning? Besides you sounding like you're a nut, what does that actually do for you?
I'm in the now.
Exactly.
I'm in the present.
Right.
I'm aware.
Right.
I'm aware of where I am.
Right.
who I am
Yeah.
and how I'm thinking.
Right. And it'll keep you away from your phone and all that, because you're no longer thinking about all that future work. You're thinking about this right now. And all you have to do is do that for 30 minutes in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I just call it sound as hello.
I like it.
And so I can even listen to sounds outside my flat. If I
Yeah.
hear a car go by, I go, interesting, hello. And it makes me stay really focused for those 30 minutes. Try it. I swear to God, it does a world of good.
I like it. Because often when you're traveling, you need that time to realize where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so if you don't have that feedback and you just jump straight onto your device,
Totally.
you're not being present.
Totally. By the way, you got to know, because I travel so much, a very common experience for me is I have no idea where I'm waking up. I mean, that's like every morning.
Yeah.
Every morning.
The worst is when you're trying to navigate to find the toilet in a
No
hotel
question.
room.
No
It's
question.
not the same as your house
No.
or your apartment.
It's a big problem, actually.
Yes.
Can we spend the whole interview talking about that?
Maybe if we can find someone else probably solving this problem.
I doubt it.
Thinking about the amount of time you've spent in this industry,
Yeah.
and kind of going back to the beginning, how did you land in that right time, right place? What was that story for you at the beginning?
It was the strategic planning and thinking called luck. and that's, I mean that. And I think most people that are successful, if they would really admit it,
Yeah.
it is luck. Some people are just lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of them thinking, well, I'm just this great, extraordinary human, think about it for a minute. It's 1989. I'm in New York City. I meet my wife, Maureen, in New York, right? The last place I ever wanted to live in my life was California. Because in the US, California is considered, like people where they're wacky and all that. And it was like the last place I wanted to go. But Mo was from San Francisco. We have babies coming. We moved to San Francisco in 1989. What is happening in San Francisco in 1989?
Magic.
Silicon Valley.
Absolutely.
So, James, imagine if you landed there in 89. Where would you be 25 years later?
Oh, I'm getting excited just thinking about
Exactly.
it.
So my point is, it's hard to fail if you land in a place that vibrant and that dynamic at that moment in history. So while I would love to say, oh yes, I've done all, the truth of it is, yes, have I worked hard and gotten lucky? Yes, because it requires hard work.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, if I had landed anywhere else on earth, I wouldn't have had this privilege, opportunity. It just wouldn't have happened.
Thinking about some of the technology that we have in our hands today, you were right at the interface of those founders that were incepting those ideas.
Totally.
Okay. Are there some kind of anecdotes or some stories from some of those founders that you're comfortable sharing that takes us back to what the Silicon Valley was like back then in the 80s?
Okay. For the old timers listening, they know this kind of stuff, but there was a massive war going on between Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
Okay.
It was massive. It was not a minor war. Matter of fact, to such a degree that if you walked inside of a corporation and you were carrying a Mac, they might very well not do business with you.
Okay.
They would tell you to get the hell out. If you were walking into a Mac shop with a PC, they would tell you to get the hell out. So my business had to run dual systems. Now it got worse. When Sun Microsystems started creating their software, they required that we use theirs. So we used to have to work on multiple platforms with email, with documents, with anything, because if you missent to one person some kind of software or platform that they didn't approve of, the business was over. That's how bad it was. I'll give you some additional examples. Bill Gates was famous for throwing chairs at people in the middle of conference rooms during meetings. Now, the Bill Gates you know today, you would never imagine that. But he was notorious for it. He was a pretty angry dude, and everybody that worked for him, they bitched and moaned about him. Now he's a god, right? He's like this extraordinary human being, giving, all this stuff like that. But back in the day, right, Steve Jobs was useless as a human being. He was just, nobody wanted to be around Steve, right? And yet now we've deified him in this space. Now he's earned his way. I'm not arguing with that. But my point is this, we live in the scribble of today. You're in London with some amazing founders. You're in wherever you are in Europe with some amazing founders. And you may judge them. You may say, well, they're this, they're that. What I've seen is what they become. And what many people in London don't realize is that these amazing people that are emerging from these startups, pay attention. They're the future Steve Jobs. They're the future Bill Gates. And they are. It's not a matter of they might be. They are. So learn from them. Spend time with them. Deal with the fact that they're a little erratic, a little crazy, a little whatever. It's okay. Pay attention because they're the future of what this whole thing's going to emerge into in Europe. That is the great lesson to learn from these 25 years. Some extraordinary human beings that people judged early. And then you see them, and it's like, don't judge so fast. There's some amazing people with smart ideas that are happening right underneath your nose. Pay attention to them.
How would you compare where London is today versus where the Valley may have been 20, 30 years ago?
1996.
Wow. That's where we are.
Yeah. But here's what's good. You're growing at a far faster speed. So you're going to hit 2008, 2009 within the next year and a half, 2 years. That's how fast it's moving. When I first started in London, I would say 3 years ago, you were way back, way back. I remember having conversations with founders and with you would say they had raised, 2 million quid. And they were like, if I got 2 million and I can get it to 12 and sell, yeah. And I'm like, really? Is that truly your cap, right? Well, that has changed significantly, right? Now they saw TransferWise hit a certain number. They've seen Revolut. They've seen people, Monzo. And they're going, oh, think about that. That happened in 2 years. Versus Silicon Valley, it may have taken a decade for that to happen. So London and Europe, and it's not just London, it's Europe, is moving far quicker. So you're going to hit these marks over the next 5 years. You're going to become as strong as, if not even stronger than, what Silicon Valley has built.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where have there been some interactions with founders here in the UK or Europe where you've experienced that inspiration that you felt interacting with some of the Valley founders you have over the years? There are some examples potentially?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, TransferWise, I would say, Christo and Tavet, you can't get better than that, right? Nick from Revolut, I don't think you can get better than that. I just don't think you can. On Fido, I mean, I can keep naming them. A Culture Trip. I mean, there's a bunch of companies here that are. Somebody's going to get mad at me that I mentioned their name, but I would say there's at least 15 to 20 that I've interacted with and I continue to interact with. I see what I saw back in the day, and they're right underneath your nose, and they're amazing.
Why do they come to you? Why do these people search out you? Because to be fair, we've talked about it before.
Yeah.
You're not publicly prolific, right? I like to publicly let people know about you and your business, but why do they seek you out?
I'm lucky enough that all of my business comes from references, every bit of it. So it's like if I work with one founder, that founder then invariably says to another founder, you need to work with him, right? And that's the way it works. Now, why they do it, I think part of it is nothing to do with me. It's just the fact that I have a history, right? I have a context and a perspective. But I think if it has something to do with me is that I really love who they are. And I think they know that. They sense pretty quickly that I'm not just sitting here, I'm not trying to make money. Matter of fact, I rarely ask for money. I so enjoy the work that I'll just jump in the work. I don't really worry about remittance and worry about contracts and all that. And I think they sense that. They know that I'm in the gig because I really want to help and I want to be in the gig with them. And so I think that's what draws them to me.
I think I've experienced that. You really do live your truth and your purpose, and you put that founder at the center of your relationship. So is there kind of a framework or something that you've developed that captures how founders think? Is there something that those that are not founding companies can learn from when you think of founders? Yeah.
I mean, first of all, founders live in the world of possibility, right? So they're not afraid to imagine a world that doesn't exist. That's a very hard thing for the average person to do, right? So they imagine it, and then the second thing is they believe it. They actually drop themselves into believing it. The third thing is they're not afraid to learn. They're not afraid of feedback. They're not afraid to be told that they're full of shit. They're not insecure about that because they're focused on that vision to such a degree that if you come up to them and call them whatever you want to call them, they actually like strip it away from the emotion and they go, what's true here? What can I learn? How can I grow? How can I improve? And you know that as a founder. It's how you walk the earth, right? Most founders walk the earth that way, and here's why. They don't have time for their pettiness. They don't have time for their insecurity. They don't have time for their ego, self-interest. They don't have time for that because they have a mission. They've got something they've got to get to. They've got something they've got to solve. And so they will do that so purely and so wonderfully. So the thing for us to learn, those of us maybe are running sales organizations, those of us running corporations, to take that into play. Now here's the, and I said this morning to this company I was working with. The price they have to pay if you're running a large organization that's been going for a while, you don't have the luxury of a startup on one level, and it's this. You must protect the infrastructure. You must protect what's been built to date. You must. Whereas a startup doesn't. They have nothing to protect. So they can just go do their crazy stuff, right? What ends up happening as you build a business, you start getting this legacy, right? So let's say you start booking, $50K, $100K, $1 million a month in revenue. Well, you get very protective now. I got to protect that. That limits your ability to move quickly, but forgive yourself. That's called smart. Protect it, right? Build on top of it. But startups don't have that problem. Now, they also don't have the cash, right? They're taking money from VCs, which is really expensive. But so you have to see what the trade-off is. But if you can, as a head of sales, running that legacy, think about what a founder does. They take risks because they imagine it could happen. For example, would be you get hit in the face with, one of your biggest deals drops out. Most people go immediately to, why me? How did this happen? Oh my God, and all that, right? Founders rarely do that. Founders generally go to something like this. They generally go, watch this. Watch what I do next. They have this kind of like this attitude of, sure, hit me, I'm good. And then they impress you with how they respond to it, not by how they're a victim to it. And you know this, right, as a founder.
What is that? What is that clarity of thought or vision that allows them to be so clear with their conviction with what they're doing versus the challenge when you have responsibility over someone else's operation, somebody else's infrastructure? What is it? What is that, like that essence?
I wish we knew. I think this is one that I'm not sure we know what it is.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I do say this. I do believe this, though. It's like, think about the concept of mission for a second. What is a mission? Just think about what a mission is, right? It requires a missionary, right? And what is a missionary? It's somebody who is externally focused. They're not about themselves. Their nature is something about they are living something that it's outside of their own little interests. Like they're just not they're not, I'm not saying they're not self-interested, but they're not as self-interested as they are in that accomplishing that mission, right? So there's something about the mission and the missionary element of it that drives that. Now, where does that come from? A good idea at 2 a.m. All of a sudden you wake up and you go, damn, that's right? And then they get caught up with the idea. It could be that while they were growing up, there was something that happened to their mother or father that made them, think I'm going to do something about that. So it's whatever the mission is that people are driven by. I think you have to discover your mission. And if you can discover that mission, that passion, right? And if you can't do that, find somebody with a passion and mission and become their best number 2, right? You don't have to be the one, but find a mission. Find even somebody else's mission. I think that's key to life. We're here for such a short period of time. It's like, why wouldn't you live a mission? What are you thinking? Right.
Yeah, and I think, look, it is okay also to pursue others' missions, and be part of a shared purpose.
That's right.
And, you know, there is a reason why there are founders and non-founders contributing to that. However, I think everyone can benefit from adding color to their dreams. Everyone can benefit from projecting what their future life or their professional outlook could be. And I wonder, from a founder's perspective, we're so deep in our dreams that for us it's so obvious,
right,
so real, that we're waiting for the rest of the world to catch up.
I know.
It is, because ultimately we are creating something that we believe should already exist.
Totally.
But we have to
No, it's more than that. In your mind, it does exist.
Yeah. Well,
that's what's crazy. You wake up in the morning and you don't see it and you go, because you actually believe it exists.
well,
That's right.
but this is it. Like, for me, this is the vision. I'm already there.
Exactly.
And then it's about, how do you take those steps to develop? So bring it back. So for, a sales leader or a sales professional, how can they think about the key milestones that allows them to get where they want to go?
Yeah.
And in your mind, what are the approaches that they can take so they can develop their career?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of a product roadmap.
Okay.
Like, I've worked now with product teams for so many years that the brilliance of how engineers think about this and how PMs, product managers think about it is a great instructive way to structure your life. Build a goddamn roadmap. Like, just build that roadmap up on a wall or something that it has the signposts of what you're going to do when, right? The way I do them is I do a top and a bottom. So the top is the agreed upon roadmap, right? And then the below is the ideas. So that way you don't kill ideas. You don't get so locked into your roadmap. So below, if you have a crazy ass idea, you just throw it on there, right? And so you always have it there. You can always come back to it or even plug it into the permanent. A roadmap is a really good idea. But let me go back real quick to what you're saying about the founders, and because it applies to sales leaders. There's a concept called first followers. Do you know this concept at all? It's the idea that founders by nature are crazy. They're just all insane. All of them are insane, right? What makes them real is their first followers. So if I go to a Brian Chesky and a Joe Gebbia, right, and a Nate, when they launched Airbnb, anybody that ever met them and talked to them would immediately go, "You're nuts. You're crazy." But then something really magical happened. There were a few people, actually from Europe, by the way, who actually flew to San Francisco because they really saw what they were doing and said, "Can I help you?" And so here's what happened. You'd meet them, and then you'd see the first follower and go, "Okay, they're crazy. They're not. So maybe they're not as crazy as I think they are." So the concept of first followers legitimize the founder. The same thing's true if you're a sales leader and you're trying to compel your team to move forward. Find great first followers that are sane, logical, operational, right? Find those that can add the scaffolding to your dream, because they're the ones who actually build it. See, the founders get the benefits of a lot of this, and the great founders, they ordain their first followers and really help them. So if you go to like Google, for example, the first 100 employees, if I asked you how many of the first 100 are still at Google today, what guess would you have?
None of them.
40.
Okay.
Out of 100. Now think about that. Those are first followers.
Yeah.
And they're still there. To me, that's stunning.
It's part of their world.
Well, what it tells you is that Google took care of them.
Yeah.
Right? They took care of them. And that's one of the hallmarks of Google. Google took care of its people. And because of that, you see people stay longer. Susan Wojcicki, who runs YouTube, is one of the very first Googlers. She is the CEO of YouTube. She's running the place, right? That does not happen often because founders fail to take care of their first team. The same thing with sales leaders. Pay attention to your first team, the first followers. They actually, they make you credible.
So thinking about the various stages of growth within B2B software companies, raising multiple rounds of funding, each stage requires something different, a different approach to leadership. How can the sales leaders think about what they need from their people at each stage? Like, how can they assess what the needs are for them to develop a successful sales organization using your understanding of business?
Yeah. Well, first of all, that jump that you're talking about, A, B, C, D, E, F, all that, right? That's a very complex chess game, and it gets more dangerous over time. What people don't realize is that money is not free at all. As a matter of fact, it's the most expensive money you're ever going to get in the history of your life, right? So each time you do those things, you're picking up amazing weight. Here's the problem. There's one group of people inside your business that pay the price for it every time, and it's the sales org. And they're somewhat a victim to it. The great sales orgs don't act like victims. They take it on. They go, you know what, screw it. Yes, you made promises that are just out of this world stupid, but you know what? I'm going to make it happen. And it's the first team, and then just putting amazing, driven human beings out there as your sales team. It's who you recruit.
Okay, so the fundamental success is about the people that you bring into that organization. You need to look after those people. You need to find those people that are ready, prepared to execute, outcompete others, but care about each other through that experience.
No question.
So how would you, thinking more, bring it back now to the company that you've built yourself, SNP. Just for those that maybe aren't so aware in the UK and Europe of the services that you provide for leadership teams and founders, what is SNP today? What do you do?
Yeah, so we are kind of three different levels. So we have the founders we work with, right? So that's things, that is coaching, but it's also working with the senior teams to get them to work like a team. So the concept of having people understand inside of businesses that your loyalty is to your horizontal, not to your vertical. That's a fundamental belief system you've got to get ingrained. So we work with startups to get that very early in. So if you are a vice president, your team is not the group that you run. That's not your team. The team are the other vice presidents in the business, because that's how you have to scale a business over time that can actually reach the new heights. If you don't, you end up becoming siloed and you start fighting over resources, which is the biggest problem that major companies have. We try to establish that in startups. In fast growth, we spread that. We get it into the department. So we would be working in the Eng group with the product team, the marketing team, the HR people, customer service, all the way out. We'd be doing all that work. And then on the very bottom of our triangle, it is the large enterprises. We do tons of work with some very big companies, and it's all comms kinds of work, influencing, presentation, negotiating, all those kind of feedback, those kind of things.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Has there been some experiences for you where trying to help a leadership team work together more effectively has actually led to their demise sooner rather than later? Because you're identifying that they may not have this. So, and I'm not expecting you to share who, but how could you articulate where you've just seen that what has happened once you've gone into that organization is a realization that they haven't got the right people, they're not on track, and they're not addressing what's happening in their business?
Well, first of all, that's far more common. I mean, that in London, there's at least 3 different companies that I've actually helped them totally flip not only their senior team, but their co-founder situation. I have made it all happen, right? But the larger question is this, and this is a shocking thing for me to realize. Somebody asked me this question 6 months ago. They go, Renn, how many of the companies you work with have they failed? And I thought about it, and I thought, none. Now, here's what's really interesting. Is that because of me? No. It's because of who is asking for my help. Think about it for a minute. It's a testament to the people that are wanting my help, and they're willing to work with me to get where they need to get. That is the key to their success. They're willing to reach out to people like me, and that's a testament to the founders. That's a testament to the head of sales, the team I just left just now. This is an amazing team. They're hungry for information. They're hungry to learn. They're hungry to grow. So in my experience, I have never been a part of a situation in any company anywhere that has failed. It's never happened to me. I've never seen one fall out from underneath us, right? But it's because they are that type of people. They learn, they grow, they're the ones that are seeking, the type of information they need and the type of work they need to get really good.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thinking about some of our listeners, they're not yet founders. They're not yet VPs. Mm-hmm. They're not yet managers, right? They just want to get to the next stage of their career. Yeah. What can they do to accelerate their career development?
Yeah. First of all, focus not on your career development, focus on the work at hand. If you perform your job really well right now, nature, the world, environment will actually take more care of you than all of your efforts on your own career. That's a big mistake people make. They so focus on being strategic about their career, and people around them hate them for it. So now you just have nature working against you, right? Versus do your job really, really well. Just like nail it. People notice that. They're like, damn, that guy's good, right? So now you've won on that level. The next level is get over yourself. Be much more externally focused. Quit worrying about your ego, your self-interest, and ambitions. Seriously, stop it. The world is much more full of luck than it is your so-called strategic smarts about how you grow. It's just not true. There's a lot of very smart people that fail on their face, right? Why? Because they're not living life as a member of a community. They're not living life externally. They're not like coming to this earth to be a part of a mission and help, right? If you come at that way, working hard, the world notices, man. They will actually come and help you. And then the third level of that is be a learner, not a knower. I mean, really be a learner. When I read my books that I read them with this one thought in mind. I'm going to believe everything I'm reading just for this one moment. I'm not going to sit there and look at it with a jaded eye. I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to be all Mr. Smarty Pants. I'm going to go, you know what? Maybe this guy's right. Maybe this is true. And I'm going to fully consider it, right? That's how I learn. Now, each person has to find their own path, right? But I think the key to this path is we've got to quit being so goddamn smart about ourselves and realize that the world needs people that will take on missions and be out there and really help the world become a better place. Particularly now, pay attention to what's happening to the world. This is not a pretty moment. So it needs a bunch of good missionaries right now doing what you need to do in your own neighborhood, in your own families, in your own communities. And you know what? You'd be amazed how much good you can do. Rather than having this highfalutin idea, right? It just,
It's such simple advice and a philosophy.
You're calling me simplistic, is what you just...
Well, I'm defining that it seems obvious and logical, right? But it's actually quite difficult to focus on the work.
That's true.
And I think what has happened with social media, and the founders that you've impacted that have created this world of social media is that everything does seem accessible in the now. Because I can flick through my feed and I can see what my dream could look like. And it feels like, therefore, it's very accessible. So therefore, the challenge is, how do I do the work today to get me at my next stage of my career or my business or my personal life? And I think what's very difficult for people, especially the younger people now, is they're exposed to everything is possible.
That's true.
But no one tells the story of what they've had to do to make it possible. So actually, simple in the fact that it's difficult to apply, but it's exactly what people need to be doing. People often ask me, it's like, well, how did you transition from being a sales professional to being a founder? What did you do? And I was like, well, I became a very good sales professional. I focused on today's craft, but I had a dream, I had a vision. So I think that's super valuable for anybody listening right now. Focus on what you're doing today and what you've got to do tomorrow, and do it to the best of your ability, but look for opportunities to incrementally improve and have a direction, a path, a vision and a dream of the future, what we've talked about, so that at least you feel like you're working towards something. But I also feel like that doesn't happen overnight. It takes experience, it takes time for you to get in a place where you have your sense of purpose, a realization of what work is required.
Yeah. One thing I would say with that, though, is that I've adopted this idea of a strong opinion lightly held, right? So if I put a goal out there, it's a strong goal, I'm going to go get it, but it's lightly held. Like, I'm willing to, if I see the facts change, I'm good. Let's move, right? And so you got to be, in this world today, the speed and the ability to move is a really quick thing. The other thing I would say is this. What I would suggest, if I was 25 again right now, what I'd be paying attention to is that all this media exposure is leading to something. And the person that discovers where it's leading to is going to be your next Bill Gates. It's going to be your next Steve Jobs. There's something that's happening right now as it relates to media exposure that is, it seems to be, like even TikTok, look at everything. There's something happening right now that is fundamentally changing. And what this concept is, if you ever get a chance to do some reading on this, there's a concept that believes this, and this you get this deep in engineering, that actually we're not building technology. That technology is building us. That technology is teaching us how to build it and how to use it. The car is the great example. Look at a car. How did that happen, that a steering wheel landed where it landed? A pedal landed where it landed? The theory is that actually technology is teaching us how to use it so that we can get to this next level where we need to be. Now, that's an outlandish idea to think about, right? But what I love about it is it makes you think, okay, if there is some kind of sensibility about this, like this is all going somewhere, like personal computers, when it first came out, nobody really knew where that was going. Steve kind of had a view, right? But nobody really knew. But look where it landed. It's landed in that little thing in your hand that's as powerful or more powerful than the Voyager 1 and 2 spaceships that are still floating in space. And that damn thing is in your little hand now, and you're doing all kinds of little frivolous stuff with it, right? What's next? There's some reason that we're doing all this media stuff. There's some reason that technology is teaching us to deal with exposure, some reason to deal with seeing all this, to see each other so well, to be exposed to the world the way we are. Technology is teaching us something. What is it? That's the mystery. That the person that figures that out, that's our next multi-billionaire. It's a challenge to you, James. Get to it, man.
I'm going to be putting some thought into this.
Get to it.
So thinking about this concept of confidence that I'm advocating, right? And our organisation is about inspiring sales confidence.
By the way, this was a big topic today.
Oh, was it?
At this thing with this sales group.
I'm looking forward to syncing up on that. But coming back to you for a moment, where have you found your own confidence in your ability to execute?
I'm not sure I looked at it as confidence.
Okay.
I am a mission-oriented person.
Yeah. So
I'm very driven by my mission. So I don't know if I look at it as confidence. I look at it more, well, maybe, okay, I was raised by a military father, right? My dad was this amazing black ops dude that, even though it sounds like he was a tough dude, he was the opposite. He was really a musician. I don't know if you know anything about black ops, but they're very, they're like philosophers, right? And my dad was a philosopher. And he used to say this to me all the time, and to my older brothers as well. He would say, if somebody on earth is doing something, if somebody on earth is doing anything, I mean anything, by definition, you can do it because a human being's doing it. So if a human being is doing something that you're looking and go, damn, I want to do that, by definition, you can do that. You just got to figure out the steps to get there. So don't overthink it. Don't say, oh, no, I can't be that. Of course why can't? That's a human being doing it. You, by definition, are a human being. Therefore, you can do it. And you should say this to us all the time. It's just, so anytime we'd say anything, he goes, well, he's a gentleman. You can do that. We're like, no, Pop. Yes, you can. And, so we grew up with this idea that if something is being done, by definition, you can do it. I don't know if that's confidence or not, or delusion, but I always felt I could do anything. I never, ever felt limited by anything, right?
Well, if it becomes a reality, it is confidence. It's a delusion if it isn't your reality.
Right, that's true.
So there is a fine line, and I've been close to it.
We all
We'll save that for another interview. Okay, so look, I mean, it's very clear that we're going to have to do more of these because there's a fascinating amount to learn, and I think some of the knowledge that you've imparted even today is super actionable. So that's been really helpful. It's been interesting to hear the journey that you've been on, the adventure that you're on, but also why it's so exciting to be in business in the UK and Europe right now. And that is something that I would like to unlock more for our listeners about what are the exciting trends that are happening right now in the UK and Europe. So I guess just to wrap this up, Renn, is there a final thought or idea that you would like to impart on our listeners?
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking to the European truth, as an American, what we Americans don't realize is that we live a very simple kind of thing, right? We have an immense amount of resources. We're a single language place. We basically have our own little continent where we're all kind of the same, right? 50 states. We just like all go from one state to the other, and so we're basically the same people. Europe has something very complex and interesting. It has an immense history, a very complex ecosystem of different countries and voices and cultural experiences and all that. It's very different personalities. It really, in a microcosm, in a very small place on the earth, it encompasses everything that we have to be globally, right? So globalization, Europe is the expert at it. They're the expert. So as we now expand Asia or get, truly connect globally, the world, I believe, is going to come back to Europe and pay attention to this really interesting thing that this group of small countries sitting side by side, but very different from one another, have learned to interact, to engage, to do commerce and everything else. Brexit aside, but there's something really magical about this place called Europe because of its history, because of its diversity, because it is going to teach the world how to do this. And that was reminded for me, I was reminded of that today, sitting in front of these 100 Europeans that I was with today, that I realized in that room, every single country was covered, including Northern Africa and much of Middle East. And I looked at it and I thought, Jesus, this is, for the American mind, for the Asian mind even, this is a really interesting microcosm that we could learn a lot from. The world is hungry for it now.
I'm lost for words, Renn. This has been a fantastic experience. Really looking forward to learning more. If people want to learn about SNP, they can search online, and I'm really excited about the Sales Confidence and SNP partnership. I know that you've got individuals now on the ground in London that are supporting and delivering the services that you offer, and we're looking forward to doing more work. Renn, it's been a pleasure.
You as well, James.
See you again soon.
Always, man. Right. See you.
Cheers, mate.
Absolutely.